I really had a lot of fun making my recap slash review slash story time of the Nancy Drew game Haunting of Castle Moy, so I decided to make it a series. I posted a poll with 4 games to see which one you guys would prefer me to cover next. And naturally, I got a comment that was not one of the 4 that I had selected, and decided to do that one because it just triggered something inside me. Trail of the Twister, the 22nd installment of the Nancy Drew PC game series. The title alone is enough to trigger even the most die-hard Nancy Drew fans. A game dubbed by fans the Trail of the Chores. If you haven't played this game, the nickname will make itself perfectly clear in no time at all. Nancy Drew goes undercover as an intern for a storm research team in Oklahoma. They are part of the Green Skies competition, where they are in the running to win $100 million in grant money, but have had several setbacks and accidents. PG Krollmeister, who's provided the equipment, insists that the technology is not malfunctioning and that someone is actively sabotaging the scene. And with the previously mentioned grant money, it is not that difficult to find a motive. So let's meet the crew. There's the team leader, Scott, who is basically just there to make snarky comments and make me feel bad about myself. I mean, make Nancy feel bad about herself. He's all but given up on this competition, and he's an overall just a pessimistic dude. Fun times. He's a university professor who is not shy about his grievances with his students and how none of them are passionate for the field anymore. Debbie, the only girl on the team, is the leader, basically without the title. She makes sure everything gets done. She has the best people skills. She is also stage managing a local theater production in addition to this, and is a former student of Scott's. Frosty is the team photographer, and he's annoying, and I hate him. On our first interaction, we ask where the scratches on his arm came from. He claims that it was having to retrieve his camera when it fell into a thorn bush. This is the most interesting thing we learn about this guy. Chase is the mechanic and is actually pretty chill. It's a shame because he's probably one of the characters we spend the least amount of time with. Our other on-screen character is Pa, who runs Ma and Pa's general store. His personality is exactly what you think it is. He's a sweetheart who treats everyone who comes into his shop like a friend. You have the opportunity to ask him Pa is in Ma and Pa's, and he says she's out running errands. That's something I want to touch on a little later. Our unseen characters include PJ Krollmeister, whose name you'll recognize from almost every Nancy Drew game. Her interactive does this a lot, where they have these little background details that eventually becomes bigger parts of future stories. I always liked that about these games because it makes the world feel more full as you're getting more and more information about the things that have been softly fed to you. And it just makes the universe feel a bit more full, and it makes me happy. Our only other off-screen character is the leader of the rival team. Her name's Brooke. We only hear from her in a phone call and during some eavesdropping. So let's get into the story. The game immediately starts when Nancy is driving up to the farmhouse when a tornado blows by. She hurries to the house but stops because she sees a bunch of random crap. And by gosh, if there is random stuff to pick up, she is going to pick it up. Under the debris is a small box of money with a note thanking someone for a job well done. Inside the house, we are not greeted by any of the characters, but a note with a list of chores that we need to do. This is an omen of what is to come. So now that the game is really starting up, what do you think is next? Investigating sabotaged equipment? Interrogating suspects? Maybe looking for clues since this is a mystery game? Wrong! You do more chores, you dummy! This game is all chores. I know it's a common joke that in most adventure games that in order to get the next piece puzzle to progress, you have to do this like totally weird, convoluted task in order to get a piece from some random NPC, but this game is basically just task after task after task. This game basically brings it to a whole new level. There were genuinely times when I forgot I was playing a mystery game, and it felt more like I was just like in an intern simulator. Maybe this is just because I'm task-oriented and focused on getting stuff done, but unless one of the characters actively mentions the sabotage, or I would not think about the case at all. This could be the actual plan of the culprit, I realize, but with how underwhelming this whole game is, I doubt that's what the writers had in mind. This game is basically like a Cinderella step family where a bunch of storm chasers. Enough ranting about the chores. For now. Let's talk plot. Day 1 is basically completing that list that we got at the beginning of the game, meeting the crew, finishing what chores they give you, and it's time for bed. The next day, you get told to go out into the cornfield and fix some sensors. Nancy fixes the sensors, and we get our first reminder that this is, in fact, a mystery game. We overhear Debbie and Frosty arguing about something. It eventually turns into them agreeing that Scott needs to go. And then we're back to doing chores for everyone, and then we go to bed. We are woken up in the middle of the night by a tornado alert and have to go down into the basement. On our way down, we see a shadowy figure in the living room messing with something on the coffee table. They disappear in the next lightning strike, and Nancy calmly reminds herself to investigate that the next day. It's the morning again, and we have more chores. First, we can finally take a look at what the mysterious figure was doing by the table, and we find a bunch of letters offering Debbie a prestigious position for another university's meteorology staff. You don't get a chance to ask her about this, though, because she instantly sends you out tornado chasing. Frosty's camera breaks, and you are tasked with fixing it while he records it on a backup. You fix it just in time to watch a tornado demolish a barn. You finally feel good about yourself and that maybe not everyone on this team will hate you. But then Frosty asks you why you said the camera was fixed when it wasn't. Back at the farmhouse, Scott scolds you for not fixing the camera in time, and when you try to defend yourself, he brushes you aside. At this point in the scripting, I was burned out. This game is nothing but chores. You have a mousetrap puzzle that you do not one, but 4 times. I will give them credit, it is slightly different each time, but is basically the exact same puzzle. So, not really. There's also another puzzle where you catch prairie dogs. A lot of pest control in this game. Scott ends up disappearing, and we get tasked with fixing the phone jack in his office. Once it's repaired, we overhear a conversation via Scott's headset with none other than the enemy's team leader, Brooke. The two have been conspiring together to sabotage the team, and we drive out to confront him. After Scott gives us his villain speech, he drives off and leaves us to be sucked up by a tornado. We don't, by the way. This is a game for kids. We aren't immune, however, from doing one final chore that is apparently single-handedly saving every person in the town by helping them into the city's storm shelter that is beneath the previously mentioned theater. The game could have ended here, but instead we are forced into a better late than never car chase with Scott, who eventually runs into a telephone pole that cues the epilogue. Scott and Brooke are both out of jobs. Debbie takes over the team and decides to collaborate with the rival team, since their leader is gone now too. But while I think the concept of doing like a storm chasers type mystery could have been really interesting, I feel like this was kind of overall just a bit of a letdown. All the sabotaging was honestly just felt like an afterthought. I mean, there have been plenty of sabotage mysteries that Nancy Drew's done where she's like been a victim of the things, but like nothing really actively happens to her in this game. Which is weird because she is part of the team and the person she replaced had his leg broken. You don't see any of the accidents actively happening while she's there. Everything is just normal. So all the things that she's trying to figure out about are things that happened in the past. There's like really no sign that there's still things going on other than the fact that there's some tension among the team. I feel like that could have been played more if there would have been some bigger inconveniences that happened there. She obviously does fix a lot of things, but they're given to us more like, okay, here are your chores that you need to do, rather than, oh my gosh, this thing happened, we need to fix this, get this back up and running. I think the camera puzzle is the only one where it's like, okay, we need this done now. Everything else is just like, oh yeah, so go over there and do the thing whenever you find the time. Overall, I think this game just like lacked urgency, except for in the camera puzzle, which seriously stressed me out because I don't like being yelled at by Frosty. He's kind of mean. Another interesting thing that I didn't know where to fit this in, but something that I kind of did like was the side plot where you learned that Scott was once really passionate about his job. He definitely didn't set off the tornado alerts soon enough, and Ma of Ma and Pa's general store fortunately killed in that storm. And there's an article, it's the only way you find out this happens, because as I said before, Pa always says that Ma is out somewhere else whenever you ask him about her. So the only place you can figure out this information is a newspaper clipping in Scott's office. I thought that was a very good character moment. You are allowed to ask him about this, He kind of gets defensive, and I think no matter like what choices you make in the dialogue, he gets mad at you. But the game also has this little quirk where you buy candy from the general store, and so always one of the dialogue options is, do you want some candy? And then you're allowed to give whichever character a piece of candy. I bring this up because I noticed this when I was having the serious conversation about Ma's death and Scott talking about his regrets, and he's kind of like getting defensive. And see, you're 18 years old, you don't know anything, blah blah blah, and he's like mad at her and wants her to leave the office. And then you have the option to choose, would you like a piece of candy? And then instantly he just goes back to being pleasant, and he's like, oh sure. And he's like, thanks, my favorite. And then he eats the candy, and then that's that. There are some little fun little quirks about the game. There's a fun little arcade game you can play. The characters can be interesting, it's just I feel like they aren't as incorporated into the story. I don't really have a personal history with this game because I did not play this game until I was an adult. So this was one that came to me when I was playing through the games in order as an adult and had adult money. So it could just be me not having nostalgia for the game. This one took me a while to complete just because motivation-wise it was just very slow. That's Trail of the Twister. What Nancy Drew game do you want me to cover next? Let me know what you thought of this game. Am I just being hateful? Maybe. Bye.